Welcome everybody to another edition of the In the Paint Show, episode 190. I'm here with my longtime co-hosts Chelsea Hopkins and Ani Umana, back at it. We got plenty to talk about. We're going to try to keep it short and sweet on our topics and hit our topics. So how are you guys doing?
I'm doing well, Ronnie. Just waking up, a long week or start to a week, I guess, for me so far, but I'm okay. Ani, what about you?
It's all good. I just drove back from Dallas now that I'm in Houston. So just, get my body up. I need some coffee after this show. But we're gonna be good. I'm not as tired as Ronnie though. Ronnie sounds dead. So we gotta wake him up a little bit, Chelsea.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to wake up a little bit. Maybe we'll get into it, hit a few points. But basically we're gonna talk about NIL, talk about recruiting, things that have happened regarding that, around that, kind of mention, some of the standouts we've seen who are guys who are going to, obviously chasing NIL deals. And obviously some people got some nice awards at this Mamba League out in Los Angeles. It was, they won this Mamba trophy for winning this event. So those two players we're speaking of, and we'll get more into it, is Caleb Wilson and Aaliyah Chavez. Aaliyah Chavez on the ladies' side, and Caleb Wilson, obviously one of the best players. But we kind of want to start off with our 224 National Player of the Year, Mr. Basketball, Cooper Flagg, going to the Duke. And Ani, let's just get a highline thing. He signed with New Balance as an endorser, which is a real endorsement. What NIL is really intended for, as we talk about it, and we know it's turned into pay for play. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that, but he's going to be their brand ambassador for years to come. And what's your highline reaction to that?
I mean, I think it's smart for New Balance. They probably promised him a signature shoe, right? Sure. For a company like that, you're looking for the next one up. I know you got LaMelo Ball, Kawhi's kind of, on, I won't say last legs in the league, but he's closer to retirement than, him playing a longer. Well, he's Puma. I'm sorry. That's Puma. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's all right. I'm kind of mixing them all up. But anyway, but it's kind of the same. Like those smaller, they don't have a big presence in like the college and NBA space. But they gotta find the next one. So for New Balance, Cooper Flagg makes sense. I mean, you can have signature shoe after signature shoe, and he's gonna play in the league for a long time. So I think it's a good risk. You're gonna see shoe companies like Puma, Under Armour, Adidas will, they got ants, so they're kind of in a good place, and New Balance, what they found with Cooper Flagg. So I think it's smart on Cooper. If he went to a bigger shoe company, he probably doesn't get his own deal, his own shoe as quickly as he's going to get with New Balance. Like I imagine they probably got like the shoe, like how it's all like going to look like already. So prototype. I mean, I would imagine the spring his stuff gets released. So yeah, I think it's smart on Coop. I think it's smart on New Balance. You found your next one, and I think we're just going to see more and more that are the ones that aren't Nike or Adidas, especially Nike, right, or Jordan. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to see that from these companies, because a lot of these NBA guys that they have are kind of like fading out a little bit. So they got to find the next young hot prospect that can, sell gear. Sure.
Yeah. And Chelsea, obviously, like as Ani mentioned, non-Nike, is that something that is like, do you think, we kind of talked about it and I wanted to reference one of our episodes when we have with Sonny Vaccaro, 163, about the Air movie. It's like we're trying to find the next guy. But do you think at some point it's like, Nike's on top? And you mentioned it at that show, and we kind of agreed, like, regardless of what happens to guys, sometimes they matriculate to Nike. And do you think that is just healthy competition, or like, wow, this is like an eye-opening moment?
I think it's eye-opening because this was a Nike kid that everybody kind of expected to go to Nike. Sure. But to Ani's point, one, he has Maine roots. So New Balance started in Maine. So obviously the hometown connection. To Ani's point, they're not maybe so dominant in the basketball space, but they do have a very nice core of young athletes and trying to kind of, get it going in that space. I think on the women's side, they have Cameron Brink. Basketball, obviously Kawhi Leonard. They have Jamal Murray. So this is a very smart move on New Balance's part. The marketability with this kid, especially him going to even still a Nike school in Duke, like, they're going to be able to have the ability to have him always wear New Balance off court. And it's definitely a big moment. So Yeah, Nike, dropped the ball definitely with this kid, but I can see the hometown connections being a big thing. Obviously, the money is a big thing, and what New Balance can offer is probably not the same as a juggernaut like Nike. Nike is going to be less risky. They are Nike, and they don't necessarily think that they have to give a kid the world right now. And if New Balance is all in, like it makes total sense, and good on Cooper Flagg for making the best decision for him.
And look at these, and more. You're going to see more of these like non-Nike shoe companies. They're going to be more aggressive in like the NIL like space, as far as like with the high school and the college guys, making them like signature athletes. They know they probably really can't compete as far as like in a league, like an EYBL. Like Adidas 3SSB was really good this year, right? But like we know EYBL is the number one. So I would imagine you're going to see more of like this, more targeting like a New Balance athlete or Adidas athlete. And Nike does it, but like you're going to see like Under Armour and those type of programs do that more than really try to compete as far as like in the grassroots, like like the grassroots like circuit space. So yeah, I think we're going to see more of this in the future.
I agree with that, and I also know that Nike has no problem getting a kid on the back end, or not a kid, a person in general. I mean, Kobe, he started with Adidas, and now he's synonymous with Nike because of the longstanding, relationship that they've had. So fortunately for Nike, these other companies don't necessarily have the liberty of doing that. Okay, hey, we didn't give you everything. Sign over there. Let's see how it goes. Okay, we'll pick you up in 4 years. A lot of people can't do that. So sucks that a kid that was longstanding with Nike from just the Scholastic League, the EYBL, all that kind of stuff. But he'll be back.
Well, that's the thing, as you're mentioning, and you kind of mentioned it on that episode. Go listen to 163 if you haven't. Is Adidas, our guy Gary Charles was a guest, Sonny Vaccaro. They spent all this, the late Jolly Bean. They spent all this time procuring Kobe Bryant, and for whatever reason, his designs, his branding didn't really work to the way they wanted to, and he left to Nike maybe 5 years into his career. So again, the pressure is on New Balance too, to be innovative, to be smart, to come up with great commercials, etc. Because again, it's similar to what you're saying. If a kid is smart, and again, I'm just speaking of X kid, meaning XYZ kid. I'm not speaking of Cooper Flagg or anybody. Okay, I'm gonna play EYBL. I'm gonna play EYBL, build up my brand, and then my brand is stronger. I'll sign with whoever I want. If it works out great. If not, I'll go to Nike when I'm 28. You get what's the difference? This is kind of what you're saying. Look at Kobe Bryant at 43. He would be about 44, 45, 46. All that brand. Everybody associates him with Nike, and obviously he had that Mamba League that we're talking about. Obviously, we're talking about the late Kobe Bryant. So his legacy is going to be secure with Nike as long as Vanessa Bryant wants it to for indefinite. So it's very interesting. But I will say for New Balance, they have now surpassed. They've surpassed other companies, and I believe in sales. I believe they're past Under Armour in sales, which is a big moment. Like you mentioned, I believe that was you, Chelsea, mentioned. Like they've kind of been maybe in non-basketball. They're just building their brand. People buy it, the shoe. You don't think about it as a basketball shoe, maybe necessarily, but young kids and people are buying their shoe, and they've obviously built up a nice brand, and they keep building it. And it changes. Obviously, Nike's been on top for a long time, but as we've mentioned in previous pods, Alley Gear was big at times. Reebok was big. Like, it changes who's number two, in other words, or number three. That changes a bit. Obviously, Nike's been on top. So,
speaking of Reebok, Reebok's another one. Like I think we got Angel Reese, and then they're targeting some guys that will be in the 225 draft. So but it just goes to my point of what I'm saying. Like a lot of them are going to start targeting these guys younger and trying to, get them their own signature shoe early and stuff like that. See how long they can hold them.
Sure. And it helps build the brand equity. Obviously, people, if you sign somebody to 17, 18 years old, there's some loyalty there compared to a guy who's 25, 20. He's going to be like, this is all business. What do you want? What are you talking about? So maybe you build that brand loyalty and it works and you stick with it. But Yeah, obviously Duke is a Nike, one of the Nike college signature programs, and obviously there's a lot of opportunity for Cooper Flagg to do things off the court when they're not playing per se.
Mm-hmm.
If he plays well, and Duke's going to be on TV a lot, we know that, and that kind of thing. And to your guys' bigger point, he's not going to be there too long, so it's not like they're going to have to do that many activations with like. Just get through the first 6 months, build up some programs, and then they'll be ready for the draft in 2025. So obviously, we'll see how well Cooper plays. He's obviously most people expect him. So let's jump into our next topic. And it's hitting right on this point that you guys mentioned. And Ani, let's talk about recruiting. We've talked about it a little bit. You know, the state of recruiting. Obviously, the Cooper Flagg level guys are going to be recruited at the highest level. We talk about loyalty, picking the right school, going on your visits. Is all that kind of like totally changed just because it's like, dude, offer me X more money than that school's, and that's where I'm going. Is that where we're at basically in totality, or is it no? Let's not jump the gun. We're not quite there yet.
I mean, not in totality, but you've seen it, right? It just depends on the program. There are players that take a financial, you can say, discount, or they passed up on money to play in the right basketball decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna like go in specifics on some guys, but like, we know a guy like Pop Isaacs, right? Like I know he went to Creighton, but I know he was getting the numbers I was hearing that he was getting thrown at him were crazy, but he chose what he felt like was the best basketball decision for him. And you see that a lot more often than not, because if you realize what some of these guys are making, like it's good money, but they could have gone to X school and they probably would have been 400,000 or 500,000 more, right? So I don't think in totality. I think it depends on the program and the kid. In the recruitment meetings that I've kind of like been in or kind of helped, that's what the staff has to balance. Like if it's just a straight transactional play, like okay, we just got to bid higher than that kid. The thing is, it kind of two ways. If it's just going to be straight transactional, I got you because I just bid higher than you than the next guy. Then the relationship between the kid and the coach could be, then that's transactional. You see what I mean? So that's kind of the conversation are going. It's like, do we want this? Okay, we got to bid that. We just going to bid whatever to get him. Then we got to know, like, okay, how is our relationship going to be? You know what I mean? And you got to be careful. Like you see high school kids, you hearing numbers getting thrown around. If these guys aren't one and dones or like no brainer 5 stars, they're guys that are in your program or these portal guys that you want to bring in. They're going to look at that and be like, hey, look, I've done it at this level. You see what I'm saying?
Correct.
So you're giving him 1.5. That's what I'm looking for. You see what I'm saying? So you got to be careful. You're seeing it because some programs are actually like they got to get the players, and some just got a lot of money, so they're going to do it. It doesn't matter. Like they can just pay it, but they're also careful because the moment you're throwing so much bread at one, then that's still going to hit your salary cap no matter how much it is. And then that's what's going to kind of be the standard or what other guys are going to be looking for. So it's going to be like, okay, you're giving this guy 1.5. Well, I may not be as good as him, but I deserve $1 million. I deserve 700. In reality, your market is maybe 200-300. You see what I'm saying? So you got to be careful as a coach on how much you're going to spend so early, because in the back end, that's going to be what people kind of base off what they want, right?
Correct. You're setting the market by doing that,
So programs are careful of that. I wouldn't say completely. Like some are like, hey, look, I'll do whatever it takes to get the kid. And there's some players that you got to do that for, right? Like I get it, but when it comes to just straight like, okay, I'm gonna offer you 300. Okay, he goes to the next coach. He said 3. Can you match that? I'm gonna give you 4. Then goes to that he's gonna get 5. When it becomes a game like that, when you see guys do that for a player or parents do that for a player, just understand when he goes to that school, wherever the highest money was, that relationship between the coaches is gonna be straight transactional. So don't expect him to care for him. You know what I mean? You can say, oh, they don't care for him anyways, but you really just made it a straight transactional deal. So coaches are aware of that. I think parents and players are getting a little bit smarter on this because you start hearing some of the stories about how this doesn't work out. And yeah, I mean, I just don't think it's okay who offers the most. I've seen some where it's like, hey, coach, look, this man offered me 800. Can we just get at least a 650? Then we're coming. We don't want, you don't have to bid more than him. Just how close can we get? And then we agree on that, then we'll keep it moving. You see what I'm saying? So people will take discounts if they know that's the best basketball fit. And the ones that do that make the right decisions. The ones that don't, that go straight for the money. It's really questionable. Like I know I'm a little long-winded, but AJ DeVance is an NBA player regardless, right?
Sure.
And I know we're hearing numbers and stuff, but at the end of the day, AJ DeVance and his family, they're going to make the best basketball decision, right? Because
he's going to the league.
He's going to the league, but a bad basketball decision can cost you maybe the number 1 overall pick or the 5th or the 10th.
Which is where the big money really is.
So at the end of the day, guys, the smart ones are going to make the best basketball decisions. It's about the money, but people have taken less money to go to a situation that's better fitted. And I think that's where we're going to see a little bit more of that going forward. People are being smarter with it. And then the reality is you don't know if you're going to get all your money.
That's
or
how it's broken down. Yeah.
Right. So you hear a lot of these conversations, but it's not in totality like that. There's some wisdom. There's some people thinking pretty smart about this with the NIL space now.
Sure. Now, Chelsea, do you based on what he said, and Glenn said, he gave us the long, answer, in-depth answer. Do you think that that's healthy, that or that's kind of what you expected to be a little bit wild at the beginning, but that we're going to get into a point where, like, okay, we're going to start making smart decisions because people hear, oh, that was a disaster for that kid. He's a top 5 kid and he didn't even go, in the lottery, kind of things like that. Or look at that kid. He was a great player and it didn't work out for him because he chose just the school that, maybe offered him the most money, or that you heard that he offered him the most money. Do you think we're in a good spot, or do you think we got a lot of work to do?
I mean, I agree with a lot of Ani's points. I think that just in general, it's very transactional now. That is the state of recruiting, whether somebody's taking a discount or whatever, they ain't taking no money. Like that's off the table. So it's still very transactional. And I'm all for the kids getting paid. I really am. Like, I don't like everything that's happening because, I just feel like it's gotten blown out of proportion in terms of just even what, a kid averaging 8 points can still go get 250,000 is like, what, like that just seems like unheard of. So it's no shade to the kids, but it's just like, it's got totally blown out of proportion because it wasn't regulated to begin with. And so now they're like trying to reel it back in. But I think a lot of the points that Ani makes are only relative to just the high level kids. Like, the high level kids that are going to the league, and, obviously program and fit matters, but there's certain kids that are just already on that trajectory regardless of, school. And so I think, that it's going to be like this for a long time. Hopefully there is more wisdom involved in it. And we get to a point where it's just there's more regulation than there is today. Because I want the kids to get paid, but it kind of, I think it waters down a lot of, certain kids and just getting so much money based off of like what, like, you know what I mean? Like you said, it becomes a bid thing, not because the kid's actually worth that.
It's not a merit system.
Remove AJ, remove those, the top cream of the crop, like not a regular kid, but just like, hey, I average 6 points and I'm demanding $500,000 and I can get that because, this school is willing to pay it. But that is, I don't know. I just feel like it really isn't merit based. There's the kids that, it's just a free for all. And if the school has the money, then, they can get the kid. But Ani's point's good. I want people to understand the flip side of that too. And that's the point that Ani mentioned that I think you really hit the nail on the head. Like, people complain about the treatment of these players now. Like, it's going to be real different if I pay you $500,000 and you come in averaging 2 points.
Right. Right. Are you coming overweight?
Yeah.
Not ready. I think for me, it's I think when it comes to this, the bidding, and if I've gone to watch a lot of practices so far,
Sure.
and when you see a kid and you're like, man, that they gave him 700,000.
Yeah, and he looked
Like,
bad.
that's not. You're going to see more of this. Like, these numbers aren't going to keep increasing, in my opinion, because these people that are putting the money up are going to look and like, why are we fleshing out 700,000 to this kid or 500,000 to this kid? The people that promise to put the money up aren't going to keep doing that for programs that are paying it buttload of money to someone, and they're not even a double-digit guy, or they're not even impacting winning. They're not good, you know. That's why a lot of times you're seeing people go a level down and then portaling up, and I don't think they're still. That's kind of the tricky part, right? Like, okay, if I went to SIU, right, which that's just really good school, but like, and I average 10 a game, and I want to portal up, what is my value if I want to go to Kentucky, if I want to go to SEC or the Big 12, or if I'm at Lamar or Corpus and I'm average 15, 18 a game, what is my market value? I don't think we figured that out yet. I don't think the higher level schools like have really figured that out yet, and I think they're starting to, because you're seeing guys that, you know, put up numbers at a lower level school and lower level league, and they're good players, but they're not worth 400,000 or 500 or 600,000. You know what I mean? Like, they did good in that league for a reason. Or you watch when they played SEC or ACC or Big 12 schools, they weren't great. Their percentages weren't great, but we're still giving them damn near $500,000. You seen guys wait late, like bigs. Bigs are always a priority. Like, I mean, if you're a big, you can always make bread. I mean, because everyone needs big. So that's kind of tricky. But if you wait late, you know, these schools, they may miss on some guys in the portal late. Okay, man, what we got to do, we got to fill out these spots. And now we got 15 scholarships. Okay, Ani, what do you got? Like, who can I go get? And you're going to overpay. You're going to pay about 20, 30% more because you waited late. You know what I mean? Sure. So now you're going to see more portal guys in the spring. They're going to wait late. They're not going to make decisions in March, April, because I've heard from guys. They're like, man, if I would have just waited till May, Ani, I could have made 300,000 more. So you're
correct.
It's a transactional piece. I just think you're still seeing some people take discounts. Like, even it's still transactional, like Chelsea said. But I think guys got to still make the best basketball fit, because you will get screwed over if you don't.
Makes sense. And you hit your points, and it all makes sense. Chelsea, I wanted to ask you something else, and it's relating to that, is because you went to two different colleges, and obviously you went to school at a different time. It's not that long ago, but it seems like a totally different time. You know, it's in terms of, we're talking about making a decision. If you're not AJ Devance, if you're not going to the NBA, these guys are transferring. So they're going to transfer because, as Ani said, if you're smart, I wrote about it online on Ballislife.com. If you're smart, you're not going to go to Duke and sit on the bench. You're not going to go to Syracuse or Texas and sit on the bench. You're going to go low, become all conference, make, conference player of the year at a lower level, and then jump in the portal, and you're in high demand, especially if Ani says you have some size, you're 6'9" and above or something like that,
right.
6'8" and above. You have a lot of value, much more than a high school player. But how about a guy, Chelsea, that goes to school and he's not an NBA player, and he goes to school three or four schools, which we're seeing a lot of guys have, especially as we get out of this COVID era, guys have gone to a lot of schools. But is that healthy long term? In other words, what Ani described for the last 10, 15 minutes is mostly a short play game, a short-sighted game. Are guys still missing the long term? Like, hey, I need to still get an education. I need to find some place to live. Maybe I'm going to play overseas, but I'm going to have to find a job at 35. If I go to four different schools, I don't have the network I think I do. I'm going to run into some struggles maybe later. Are people seeing the long-term game enough?
I think that as long as you graduate, it's fine. I think that the program is the most beneficial to those kids, the kids that aren't going to be real long-standing NBA players and, may not have the professional career overseas that some of these other kids will. If you're graduating, I think it's totally fine. I'm going to use women examples because those are, the freshest in my mind. But Haley Van Leef, started at Louisville, went to LSU. Now she's at TCU, but she graduated. She's having these kids that are they're making, like, at least on the women's side, they're making the money, but they're still making the most of their time. They're going to leave with the degree. And, with the women's side, it's even more necessary because, one, like, you have to be a certain age to even enter the WNBA. Also, two, the money's different. Also, a very, very, very small percentage actually make it overseas. Like, it's just hard. So, hey, if I left college with, half a mil and a degree, then that was the goal, So I think it's okay if you keep it in that perspective. If you're just hopping around really because some of the people in the portal too are delusional about what maybe they are going to be long term. Like, some of these kids are trying to get the money and think they're going to get the NBA too. And I think it just doesn't work out like that. If you have, the kind of reality, the reality of the situation, and you're able to get this money from these programs and also finish, get your degree so you can have, other opportunities when the ball stops bouncing, then I'm all here for it.
Sure. Right. And but like Chelsea, you made the best basketball decision for yourself. You know how hard it is to like make real money and overseas, and you made good money, right? Like, but you chose the right college. And I think that's like, I think for me, some guys have to understand making bad basketball decisions, but you can make some money in NIL, but that overseas, they're not paying like that, bro. Like that's the thing guys got to realize, man. You can start off making maybe $2,000 to $3,000 a month, and you so used to you went to the highest bidder in college, and now you got to work your way up because you didn't do nothing in college. You just went to the highest bidder and you didn't play well. So some of these guys that really want to prolong their career and make real money, and they're not NBA guys, maybe they're overseas guys or G League guys, whatever. Like, go somewhere where you're going to put numbers, because that's like going to be where these overseas agents in these leagues, will base off like how much they're going to pay you. Some of these guys went to good basketball situations. They start off making 150, 200, coming out of college. That's good. Like, those overseas contracts ain't easy. And I think that's where the disconnect is. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go overseas. You're making 500,000. You're not gonna come out of college in overseas to make 500 unless you like that. You see what I'm saying? And I just think there's just a delusion there. I think some of these guys, they'll say, I want to prolong my career. You made the worst basketball decision, and you're going to come out, and overseas team's going to give you maybe $3,000 a month. And then you're gonna have to work your way up. And they don't know that though. I don't think guys coming up really understand that. They just think, oh, like, I'm gonna go overseas and make another 300,000-400,000. No, like, I'm a year. So I don't know. I just think guys gotta be more educated on that.
I think there's more education needed on the guy side. I think women in general value education period more because they've learned over years. We're making 70, 80, 100,000. Even if I'm a professional, I need to have some kind of education. Ani, let's just be honest. Education is not a priority around the guy's side right now.
No,
especially since really, unless you go to Stanford or something like that, the educational part the SAT's out of the window. So there's not all this, hey, I have to get 700 or 900 SAT. Guys are getting into some school. They can barely read. You know what I mean? So that was my point, is that the long-term end is you're not really a great professional player. You've gone to 4 colleges now. You do maybe have a little bit of money based on the current system, but now you're 32, 35, you got to get a job. You don't really have great skills in the educational department. Now you didn't go to a college that, again, you went to 4 straight colleges or 4 different ones. Now you don't have a network of people that are trying to help you get a job. That was my point. Like, you don't have that great network. I know Chelsea, like you do know people that go to San Diego State and went to San Diego State, teach there, maybe coach there. Maybe if something goes not the way you want, you can somebody you can support. You can lean on them. Hey, I'm looking for a job. What do you guys know? Again, I'm just making this up in my head.
No, for sure.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of guys that don't have that. Like, what do people go, like, and you guys know this, and I'm asking a rhetorical question. What do people go to USC for? And I'm not talking about the OJ Mails and DeMar DeRozans and Reggie Bushes of the world. The average person goes to USC so they can say they went to USC. So when they go to apply for a job, a USC graduate gets them a job. That's what people pay the big bucks to go to USC for. It's the network. So I just think on the guy side, yeah, they're playing the short end game really well, like Ani said, but on the long term, I think they're gonna, going to force school colleges again. It doesn't hurt to stay at a college if it's a good fit, and maybe like Ani said, you're making a couple $100,000 less than you went if you would transfer in the portal. There's nothing wrong with it because the long game is the game to play for 90% of the guys. You know what I mean? So, and hopefully they get that point. Hopefully we keep bringing that point, to light. And I think to you guys' credit, both you mentioned like people are wising up a little bit. I would think we're a little bit wiser on the girl side. Again, we're generalizing a little bit, but I do think that's to be the case. You know what I mean? Just because they know that the money's not, life changing, or I would say generational changing, just because you're going to go play professional basketball. You know what I mean? It could be if you're, if it could be, but it's not necessarily the case for everybody. As it stands. So, that's a great thing. That's a great topic, an interesting topic. We can keep going on and on. We probably have to have a coach or some kind of player or recent NCAA player come on and talk about their experience. But I just don't think we have enough data yet completely, or enough information, enough testimonials where people can be like, yeah, that 2021, 22, 23, 24, I did this. It just hasn't come out yet. We talk about it, and people are analyzing it. They're throwing around numbers, but I don't think it's something that we have a complete read on. Charles, did you kind of agree with that, or do you think, no, we have 3 or 4 years of information. Kids can make great decisions, or do you still think it's very early in the game?
I still think it's really early. I mean, obviously we have numbers and stuff of what these kids are getting and, a little bit about the process. But, I was just thinking when you were talking and when Ani was talking, like just about the wisdom, but these kids were delusional too when there was no money, Ani. Like I think about we saw people transfer. We just had some regulations so it didn't happen. It wasn't the Wild Wild West. Like when I was a transfer from Duke to San Diego State, I had to sit out a year and I got no money. So my decision making and my process is going to be very heavily weighed on the best opportunity for me now, the best opportunity for, my credits to transfer and me to graduate, because that has to be the forefront because there is no money involved.
There's no money involved.
Honest, but being totally honest, if somebody wanted to offer me $500,000, Ronnie, well then, I don't know if I'm going to San Diego State. I'm going to wherever. So
Virginia or whatever.
It's super transactional. And I'm told you, I'm glad that the kids, it's going to be unfortunate in the long term for them, but I'm glad in the short term they're getting their just due, because like me and a lot of these kids will not be pros. And that's not a shady thing. That's not I'm not rooting for them thing. That's a statistic thing. 2% of people play Division I sports, and 0.554% of those people go on to play professionally. So that's just the reality situation. The kids need to get their money now, and hopefully they're smart enough to get the degree too. And then just whatever happens from there.
Yeah. I think for some of them, like you mentioned, you just nailed it. Their earning power is about as big as it's gonna be in college. Again, when you make an entry-level job in this economy, in this state we're in, halfway through 224, as we look to the election in 225, is like you make 70,000, 80,000, 60,000 entry, maybe 90,000. That's about like, so if you're making college and you're a pretty good player, but you're not pro, and somebody gives you 100,000, like that's going to be about as your earning power is about as big as it's ever going to be. Now, obviously, when you get into your 30s and 40s, maybe you hopefully make more, but that for some people that's going to be a transition. Is, Chelsea, what do you think about that real quick? Is I'm making 300,000 in college, maybe 200,000, again, based on what the current state is, but now I'm not playing no more. I got hurt, and I'm making I have to go on an entry-level job and make 70,000. What do you think about that? I just think it's going to be tough, especially for the guy side. I think the girls will handle it a little bit more. Let's bring Ani back in. I think we lost him for a minute. So I just think for the guys, that's going to be be tough. And I've talked about that with people that you got to get a job now. Let's say you bust your knee up and you're not a professional. And now you got an entry-level job at $60K.
Yeah, but I think, like I said,
Yeah.
like they're still better off though. Like
Correct.
it's terrible, but they're still better off because Ronnie, there's people that played during my time and stuff like that had no money and then got hurt and then realized that, hey, I'm not going to be a pro and had nothing to stash.
Right.
Like, you know, you're talking about numbers. I played overseas for 10 years, Ronnie. It took me at least 5 years to get to $500,000. At least maybe into my 60s, and I blew up after that amount of time. So then I really started taking off money wise, but it doesn't happen for people like that all the time. And you know, I'm a player that was in and out of the WNBA and not an established WNBA player. And for me to touch the money that I did was a testament to just me being overseas and killing and hooping and like really just earning it. But it's very, very hard.
Longevity.
Yeah, it's very, very hard. So you know, it's unfortunate that it's going to be, you know, a shock when some of these things hit the fan or when they finally end, whether that's, you know, playing in college or playing professionally or whatever. But these kids are still way better off. So I encourage them to just enjoy the ride. And I also think that these kids, to Ani's point, need to get people around them that can help them kind of navigate this space. Because, you know, when there's money involved, you know, you're not always doing what's in your best interest. You're just chasing the money. And so, you know, that's very clear in kind of what's happening right now.
And that's a great point. You're right. If you have a couple 100,000 and you haven't blown it, that's still a hell of a start.
Yeah, like,
what? Okay, yeah, that's great. I think the number one person to think about that is, again, because everybody comes out on podcasts, is Armando Bacot, the North Carolina forward. He recently said on a podcast, like, yo, last year I made some good money at North Carolina. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Regardless of what his, you know, professional standing is or how good of a player he is on the professional level, like he made some really good money. And so shout out to Armando Bacot, you know, obviously the former ING player. And that's what you're speaking of. Like, hey, you have a hell of a start at 23, 24 years old. Yeah, and you can't knock that. So that's a great point, Chelsea. Let's go into our next point of the NIL real quick, and then we'll jump into some grassroots. Is I still see here all this chatter like, oh, overtime elite, Jalen Green changed the game, and this was you know, this player changed. Like, guys, it had nothing to do with that. NIL has nothing to do with that. Like, NIL started because people who were not involved in playing at the time lobbied lawmakers in California to pass this California Play to Play Act. It passed. Then in obviously it became state law, so players in California were going to be eligible for NIL, regardless of what the NCAA said in the spring of 2021, during kind of like when we're still in COVID time. I just want to give the high line on it. And then so the NCAA, other states were going to pass the law. Obviously, if one state passes a law, many times that happens where other states pass laws. So the NCAA had to implement, you know, some kind of NIL structure which went into effect July 1st, 2021. That's why we're here. So forget all that other stuff you hear. Oh, it was Nike. Oh, it was this shoe deal. It was overtime. It was Jalen Green going to the G League. None of that matters. Like, I think we still got to educate people about what a law is, and that the NCAA doesn't have a law, doesn't create laws. They're just, you can go, you don't have to follow them if you don't want to. If you don't want to play color, you don't have to follow those rules. Like, I think people were so ingrained to think like it's the NCAA's the culprit, the NCAA's the bad. No, like, you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to agree to any of their terms. So I just kind of want to make people aware of that, because I still hear all this chatter online. And again, people are young, you know, they don't know that, hey, I'm going to college, I'm 18 years old. Oh man, how did this start? Oh, I think it was Jalen Green because he went to, you know, G League. It's like, no, guys. So, you know, I want, there's plenty of episodes you can go listen to. I want people to be clear of what that is. You know, so Ani, let's jump into the grassroots space a little bit. Obviously the Mamba League happened, and we've talked about that a little bit. You know, what was your highlight take just in the last few weeks on the grassroots side? Obviously, we had some standout events and some standout players.
Yeah, you know, we were actually at Formula Zero, Ronnie, in Arizona, so that was really good. Seeing those high school and then college guys, Darren Peterson was really good.
That's an Adidas event?
Adidas event. He was really good. I think he'll be a top 5 draft pick in 226 draft. he's really good. Like, I mean,
Aaron is really good.
his burst, able to score footwork, shootings there, really can defend. He's really talented. I mean, Darren Peterson to me was the best prospect there, and that says a lot when you got a kid like VJ Edgecombe, who's going to probably be a top 3 draft pick in this upcoming year's draft. Who's quick twitch, very athletic. He's really manufactured a consistent like jumper and just in like ball handling abilities, right? Like he can really like get to like navigate through tight spaces better and stuff like that. So I really was impressed by VJ Edgecombe, Darren Peterson, Asa Newell kind of showed, a little bit more of the jump shooting. He's the kid that's a freshman at Georgia, and I don't know how like effective of a 3-point shooter he'll be in college his freshman year, but he's really shown like signs of expansion of his game. So guys like him was really good to see. Joe Sansanana, who's going to Arizona State. He's an interesting one that can really score the basketball. And the high school side, like Chidi, I'm not even going to say his last name. He's Nigerian, and that's kind of sucks because I'm Nigerian myself. And I can't even pronounce the last name, but it is what it is. I ain't trying to botch it right now. But he's a 226 kid with really long arms, who's defending, switching, blocking shots, making threes, attacking closeouts, getting to the pull-up midi. I thought Chidi was really, really good. Has a ton of upside. Him, Anthony Thompson, who's a 226, Trevor Ariza's son, Taj Ariza. I think those are like my real high upside guys because they're projected to be big wings that are like your 3-and-D guys that have the chance to really kind of evolve to something more as far as like, shot creating and like making plays off isolation down the road, like in their 20s. So I thought the Formula Zero was really good. It was a good chance to see the high school guys, the college guys, like the kid Kenan that's at BYU. It was a good look at him. Someone that's projected as a first-round pick. I don't know if he's first round pick right off the bat, as a freshman, may need another year or so, but he's talented. He's talented. You can see why those conversations are being had. By the way, the kid Igor that's at BYU, that's like I heard a lot of really good things about him. But that in the grassroots side, so Arizona just got done at TCU camp. Got to see a lot of like the high major 226s, 227s, even the ones that have a chance to be 228. High majors in Texas, like Dakari Spear from the Colony, Austin Brown from Lufkin, Davion Atkins, who, Alan Branch, my mentor, he compared him to Chris Bosh at the same time. Chris Bosh was obviously a DFW kid, so kind of has same similarities. I didn't get the chance to see Bosh in high school, so that was good to kind of hear that, kind of see how the differences and the similarities were at the same time. So I got to see a lot of really good high major talent. Man, I've been to a lot of spots like Rucker on the Wood, in Houston, Stacey Ogman's nephew, Joshua Ogman's really, really good. He's a 228 kid, has a chance. That 228 class nationally, I think it's going to be very strong. It's starting off strong. I think there's a lot of really good depth. I think we're going to look at it. It's going to be it has a chance to be like a 2022 class as far as depth, or a 25. I think this 25 class is actually really good with depth too. So you're looking at, I got a good look at the 28s. I think they're really, really strong in the state of Texas here and nationally. So got to see college, high school guys. Been on my little college tour, so seeing a lot of these mid majors and high major guys. So overall, on the grassroots side, just speaking on that, it's been good. Got to see it like a diverse talent from different areas, and those were some of the guys that just kind of stuck out to me as far as like what they've done and how they progress, and where they may end up. We'll talk about that later.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we'll hit on them as we get closer and closer to the high school season. Obviously, we're getting here toward the end of the summer, and that's some great input, Ani. I saw some of those guys. They came out to the Mamba League after the workout, like you mentioned, with the guys you mentioned that were working out with Dame Lillard. So a lot of high level guys came out to that 2-day event in Los Angeles, which was by the Crypto.com arena out there in the open foyer. They put down a court, and Caleb Wilson was the kind of the guy that people stood out. You know, the 225 from Georgia. A lot of local great guys were there. Jason Crow, you know, Christian Collins, up and coming, and many national players. And they brought in on the girl side many elites as well. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, the MVPs were Caleb Wilson and Aaliyah Chavez on the girls' side. And it was just a good nice moment. And Vanessa Bryan and her family came out and they presented the MVPs, I think, with a year's worth of Kobe Bryant's, and it was just a nice presentation. I do want to shout out that, you know, recently we lost Jelly Bean Bryant. I don't know if we said that on the last pod, but, you know, Jelly Bean Bryant, Kobe's father, has passed. You know, a great high school player, and he touched a lot of ball. You know, he played in the NBA with some legends with the Philadelphia 76ers, and he coached in the WNBA. A lot of people don't know Kobe's dad was a head coach in the WNBA, and he likes he liked ball. You know, I sometimes, me and my buddy Littell from Philly, is really close to Jelly Bean, and I just kind of knew him through text. We say, hey, this kid is good, you should watch him. He was into like watching ball, you know what I mean? Just knowing names and hopefully the legacy of Kobe Bryant continues on. It looks like it will be a strong relationship.
Sure.
Yeah,
the Mamba League, like, I mean, the Mamba mentality, all that. High school players understand that, and you know, it was out in LA, and it's a big production. I think the Slam event happened the same week, so I wanted to get a shout out to the guys who went to both, like Braden Burries. Braden Burries plays at everything on it. He's like, you know, top.
He's a hooper too.
Yeah, he's a strong kid. 6'4", 6'5". You know, he's kind of turning into a big point guard, kind of like a Chauncey Billups type. So he played in, I believe, the Slam event. He played in the LA event, and he played at the Beach City Hoops kind of SoCal Clash this past weekend on Sunday. So he was at everything, and he did play on Sunday. That was a good event, one-day event, which happened after the Kenny Smith like lead guard workout camp, which was at the same spots, the SoCal Clash and the Kenny Smith workout that Dino Strigonis hosts with Kenny Smith was Sunday, a few days ago. So he happened to be there, and it was a good event. A small event and quick, just for guards to learn things from a two-time NBA champion in Kenny Smith, who kind of think people mostly know him by obviously being on the Inside the NBA show now. I think the average person knows him more from that, but he did play for the Houston Rockets. He was a college All-American, McDonald's All-American. So he has the resume. He does it every year at the end of the summer. So shout out to those guys that continue to compete and play. Isaac Williamson was Braden Burry's high school teammate at Roosevelt of Corona, was the MVP of that event. And, you know, he's a defender, spot-up shooter, good guard, and he's pushing the top 150, I think, Ani, in terms of his national ranking. But, yeah, Braden Burry's is, you know, that guy just loves to hoop for whatever reason, and shout out to him. And as back to your point about 220, and I wanted to mention, and they're not California guys, but they deserve mention, because I wanted to get both of your opinions on what we think about it, and their trajectory is out west. And I got to give a shout out to our guys in Arizona. Arizona is just like a growing place, but the two guys that have already made a splash is Aiden Diggs, who we've seen on the EYBL, you know, underclass 15U circuit, in Kai Miles, who was also on the 15U circuit. And all three of us have seen him. And I think as far as the West Coast goes, that's the place to start, Ani, and Chelsea, as far as like players. Obviously, some guys are going to emerge in California and other places. But the thing that kind of like, wow, is the eye opener is that they're both going to their local high schools. You know, they're not joining the EYBL Scholastic for now or anything like that. And Williamsfield High School and Mesa High School. You know, so what is your take on that, Ani and Chelsea? And obviously they're great young talents, and they got a lot of time to grow, but they're just going to be at Arizona Public Schools.
Yeah, I mean, that's smart for them.
Yeah.
You know, Aiden, very, very talented, like a big guard. Sure. You know, those prep options really, until your upperclassman years, you want to really look at that if you're going to do it. I actually just did an interview with Austin Gooseby, who's a 226 kid. He's at Melissa. Mind you, I went to Melissa to interview him. Melissa, Texas, like middle nowhere. It's very up north of Dallas, but it was a nice ass high school. Like, I'm like, oh my God, like, Why would you leave here? He's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of what he's thinking. It's like, I have everything. Like when I want to go work out, all the coaches are there, give me in drills and stuff. We play a really good schedule. He's already a top 40 kid in the country. And he's like looking at like De'Aaron Fox. You look at Tyrese Maxey. You look at even guys like Dink Pate recently, who finished out at Pinkston out here. They didn't go to these prep schools. Like Dink did and came back, but a lot of these guys that are, highly ranked, want to play at the next level and even the level after that. Guys are kind of seeing that I don't have to go to a prep school. I don't have to go to a certain situation. Like some do. Like there's a lot that do. Like that may need that. But when you got a good situation, you don't need to leave it. And those guys are freshmen. Like they don't need it right now. Like if they want to go the junior or senior year, makes sense, because the reality is you're the one that's going to be expendable. In reality, like if I got a 220, like right now, if I'm IMG, like am I going to really play a 228 or 227 over this 225 kid?
Yeah,
you're not. Like you're not. Like he has to be that much better than them. So right now, go where you're going to play. If it's a good situation, play for a good coach, you play a good schedule. That's all that matters. And I think for those guys, they're making the right decision.
Yeah, correct. And Kai Miles actually did play on Arizona Compass's high school team as an 8th grader. So he did get some high school reps. Again, it would have been natural, and people would have said, "Oh, he's going to play for the national team now." Well, no, he's going to go, to a local high school, and same thing with Aiden Diggs. So those are the names to start off. Obviously, national. Batunde Olatun was also from Team Durant. He was also at the Mamba. He's kind of like the guy he was at NBA Players Association camp. So I mean, he's the name to start with nationally, I think. And again, we can break down as time goes on who are the top 228s and 227. But I think Ani, and you would agree, that's the name or the high line we're going to start with as far as people are going to be compared to him, and then we go from there.
Baba, then like Leakin Crosby and those guys, Ryan Hampton, like some of those, but Baba for sure. But
he's setting the bar early, at least.
Yes, he is. Man, I mean, as he should, as he should.
Correct. So shout out to those young guys. Again, we don't want to spend too much time in depth on that. We're going to keep talking about them as they develop. And speaking of young guys, I wanted to mention Pat Barrett, prominent AU coach in Southern California. He passed away, 72 years old. He ties into everything we're talking about: shoe deals, Nike, young players, procuring young players, putting them on the travel team, helping their brand grow. Like he's involved in all that. He just came at a time where there wasn't NIL deals they were giving out, but he passed away, like I said, recently at 72 years old this week, and he ran the SoCal All-Stars. And I know, Chelsea, you saw like the zenith of his teams kind of when you were in high school with Brandon Jennings, Kevin Love, Renardo, all on one team. They were the big-time Reebok big-time champions, and that was kind of like the zenith of his team, even though he had great teams and great young teams. I remember that at that time over there at Foothill High School, Kevin Love announced he was going to UCLA. So it was a big thing at the time. And again, there was money around, but it just wasn't on the surface like there is now. But I just wanted to shout him out. I don't know, Chelsea, if you have any thoughts on those teams or just that kind of, memories to that man who had the SoCal All-Stars.
That was the best team I'd ever saw. Like during that time, and AAU and just travel ball, all the, growing up in Las Vegas, we had the Easter Classic and the big time and all these big high level tournaments. That was one of the best teams I saw. So, I'm learning more about the coach. I'm more familiar with the players, especially being around my time in Jennings and Kevin Love. But it's incredible. I mean, that was an incredible team, to have a resume that has players like that. And just long-standing in basketball, like you got hats off to those people. So, may you rest in peace.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring it up because there was a expose and he didn't always have a great reputation. His reputation wasn't always great. People, flesh peddler, all these guys are using these kids, kind of like what we're talking about now. expectations of young kids. And in 1997, Tyson Chandler was in San Bernardino. Tyson's from Hanford, California, which is in the central, farming region near Fresno. And he moved to San Bernardino, and everybody kind of heard about him. And he was such a good young prospect that Pat had his young team, and he had great young players already. Josh Childress, Sampson, Ralph Sampson's son, Jamal Sampson, and these guys were like great players. And like Joe Keller had this young kid. Everybody's like, "Who's this Tyson Chandler kid?" And like Tyson just like destroyed their team. And like Pat's like, "I need that guy on my team," So eventually he came over to the SoCal All-Stars, and 60 Minutes, the show did, and 60 Minutes show was a big deal then. They did an expose on just what, the shoe companies were doing to these kids, the pressure they were putting them on. Tyson went to a Nike school, ended up going from San Bernardino, which is like an hour from Compton. He ended up going to Compton Dominguez, and they had a great team. And everything that became what we expected of him became of him. He became the number 2 pick of the 2001 draft. But the reason I bring up that 60-minute piece is that you could see how young Tyson was. And we're talking about freshmen and rising freshmen and guys who haven't even played a high school game. And then everybody thought, okay, at that moment, it's going to show how seedy and ugly this is. And maybe Nike shouldn't be involved with youth at this age. And what happened, Chelsea, and I don't know if you guys know this, but it went exactly the opposite. When that piece came out on 60 Minutes, you had people from all over the country calling Nike. Yeah. I want to join the SoCal All-Stars. Can you give me Pat Barrett's number? It had the exact opposite effect. So you just never know what effect exposure is going to have. And I remember that 60-minute piece came out, and then Pat just name became even bigger, and his program became more prominent. It didn't hurt him. So you just never know where the machine's going to go. So shout out to Pat, and like I said, rest in peace. But we wanted to end the show switching gears, because this is something we can talk about for hours and hours, and we only have about 10 minutes left. We're talking about this WNBA and the rookie race. I know Ani has some strong opinions about it, and so it's something we can continuously talk about. But we just kind of want to end on that, because when we come back for episode 191, we're going to be on the cusp or in the WNBA playoffs. So let's talk about that and close on that, Chelsea.
You want me to go first, Ani, or you want to go first? No, honestly, the race is over. I think Caitlin Clark is the rookie of the year. Sure. I think she came rejuvenated, rested, just high energy from the Olympic break, and she's played exceptional. I think as an impact player, I think she's just more impactful than Angel Reese, especially at this juncture and what she's doing with this team. And that doesn't mean that Angel Reese is not impactful. Like, I really have to preface some of the stuff that I say here, because I have people who watch our pod tweeting me, talking about receipts and all kinds of stuff. Listen, I am a ambassador of this league. Like, sure. Ronnie and Ani, you guys have known me for a long time. You look down my timeline. I talk about every player in every game with whatever I'm watching. Like, I'm not, gonna fan out on one player and not, show love and support to the rest. But with that being said, Caitlin Clark is the rookie of the year, and that's okay. She's exceptional. We said she was going to be the rookie of the year. She is the rookie of the year. What Angel Reese is doing is absolutely incredible. I will never downplay the 320 rebound games. I'm glad that ESPN killed that fake narrative that all Angel Reese's rebounds are only a result of her own miss. She had 60 rebounds in the last 3 games, and only 10 of them were from her misses. So with 50 rebounds, she's still averaging 17 a game, which is absolutely incredible for a rookie. But with that being said, Caitlin is the rookie of the year, very deserving. She should not have to share the honor with anybody. She has this Indiana team doing better than expected. We all, again, predicted that Indiana would probably make the playoffs, meaning that because they only missed it by 4 or 5 games last year. Sure. They're still under 500 as a team, but Caitlin has this team clicking. I think that the chemistry has improved tremendously. They've determined what type of team that they're going to be. They've played a very fast pace, running and gunning. Right now they're locked into, I believe, the 7th seed, which, I thought that they would maybe creep in as the 8th seed when I made a prediction at the beginning of the season, and they've exceeded that. And who else has exceeded that is Chicago and Angel Reese, because they were picked to finish last this season, and they are also in the playoff mix. I don't know if they're going to be able to hang on. I'm going to be totally honest with you. They have that 8 seed. Basically, I think Atlanta's right behind them, and they're like a game and a half back. So it's going to be tricky. But Caitlin Clark is the Rookie of the Year. Indiana Fever will be in the playoffs, and they're going to be a very, very tough out from what I can see at this point in the season.
Lonnie, hit your points.
I mean, Chelsea kind of hit it for me, but no, Caitlin's. It's like this: the Rookie of the Year race is Caitlin's. It's like being up 10 with 4 minutes to go. Like, just don't F it up. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I look at it. Like, Angel's going to continue to put up numbers. She's people talk about generational talent. Like, she's a generational rebounder. Like, that is insane. Like, that's insane. The rebounding numbers she's putting up. Offensively, yes, her percentages aren't great, but I think that will happen in due time, just where she kind of figures out how to generate space and make some shots and just find her spots better. I think she works a little too hard to get her shots off right now. But Caitlin, she's been what she is, like, especially after the Olympic break. Her turnovers aren't as high. She still turns the ball over high, but she's someone that makes risky plays. And that's to her benefit. That's been a lot more to her benefit. She's making shots. She's shooting at a higher percentage. She's rebounding. She's like getting damn near a triple-double each night. They're winning. They're winning. So I don't want to just go so hard on the winning, because I know when it came to Victor and Chet, it was like Victor it's Rookie of the Year. So I don't want to put too much on winning, right? Like, for rookies, because that's not what they're supposed to be. Like, that's not what the award really is kind of based on, in my opinion. I think winning plays a factor, but I just think Caitlin's just been a little bit more efficient with her play. That's just how I feel. And I do feel like she's been like a key cog, and sometimes the main cog for some of these high level games that they're playing. But I don't want to, with the Fever, I don't want to like neglect like what Aaliyah Boston's doing, or
Kelsey Mitchell,
Smith, Mitchell, like all of them, like they're playing really, really well. She has a really good core group around her that's making it make sense. And she's matured in her game. She's playing through physicality. She doesn't complain as much as she used to, right? And I think it's Caitlin's to lose. I think you're up 10 with 4 minutes to go, and as long as you just don't F it up, and and Angel, she's going to keep coming at it. And like you said, Chelsea, like, you can't discredit what Angel has done. I don't like that narrative of rebounding her own misses. She rebounds every miss.
Yeah, you're supposed to rebound.
You're supposed to do that.
But she has a nose for the ball. Like, she knows where the ball is going to be after every miss. She's very quick in getting to spots and stuff. And I think, like, since the Olympic break, like, people would try to act like she hasn't gotten better. That jumper is getting there. It's making some progress. And I just think that when she tries to make it easier, or finds an easier way to get to her spots and score, then she'll be more efficient. Right now, she just go playing hard as shit.
She just needs to slow down. That's what I think. Like, I would love to see just a rebound and maybe a pump fake, one or two, like, it's just, she just has to slow down, and she's going to figure that part out. I'm really confident about it. I think the interesting thing, I think what we talked about Wemby and Chet, like, at least they played the same position. Right. We pin Caitlin and Angel against each other all the time. And I know that's the nature of the game in sports, and it's fun to do that and talk about it. But Caitlin is a ball dominant guard who has the ball all the time. And take it from somebody who was very ball dominant as well. You can manipulate the game in many different ways on it when you have the ball all the time. That is no shade to Caitlin. I'm saying, as a point guard, I have the ball all the time too. I can decide, hey, I'm not going to pass to Ani. I don't want to pass to Ronnie. I do want to pass to Ani, whatever. You can make these decisions, and Caitlin's great at doing that. Angel, on the flip side, when you're a post player, you have to wait for somebody to give you the ball. Like, it's just a different style of play, obviously different positions. So I would really like to just let both of them just shine and be great. And I know that's just not possible.
They're shining.
Yeah.
They're shining.
Well, to me, what I don't like is when an analyst, okay, when we're talking basketball, we're just looking at the hoops. I get
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
stuff that comes with it. I get, the racist fans for Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
I know that's there. All right. And even Angel Reese, like, she has some crazy ass fans herself.
She does. Mhm.
That's a good thing.
If you're a basketball analyst, how do you try to neglect one or the other with their play?
Yeah.
If you're about the hoops, then like let's just talk about the hoops. You know what I mean? Like they're both playing well. We haven't talked about how well Rickea Jackson has been playing.
She's so good,
Like can we I'm a huge fan of Caitlin Clark, but that's not going to neglect me from talking about how good Angel Reese or Rickea Jackson's playing, or how great of a season Asia Wilson's having, and like just all these other women that are in the sport. Like that shouldn't deter me from talking about anybody else.
Sure.
That's my problem, is as a basketball analyst, if you're about the hoops, why would you not talk about everyone that's actually playing well? Yeah, talk about if you're a basketball person, like we're basketball people. Like, so the shit, like that, all the other shit doesn't really matter when you get between the lines, get on the court. So
sure.
My thing is like, if they're hooping, they're hooping. Like, don't try to tear one down. Don't try to tear Angel Reese down or Caitlin Clark down or whoever down just because you like the other person. That's stupid.
Better, yeah.
I get random Twitter folks doing that. They random Twitter folks. But you're an analyst, like come on, dog. Like, be about the basketball. Like, stop that other shit you're on.
No doubt. Yeah, we'll see. I don't think it's going to stop, at least this season. Maybe it'll, as people get used to them as they come back for their second season. So to end on the show, because we got to get out of here, I'll put you guys on the spot a little bit. I think Angel Reese is doing a little bit better than maybe we thought at the beginning of the season or coming at LSU. Caitlin's kind of doing what we expect, but as Asia Wilson is the dominant player in the league, when she's done with her prime, is Caitlin Clark going to be the best player in the league after Asia Wilson is done with her run? Either one of you can answer straight yes or no.
I think yes, but I think it's going to be a lot harder than we think.
Okay. Other players.
I think she becomes more of I think she's getting into this like triple double, like she's getting near triple doubles. After AJ probably has another good what we say at Chelsea, like another 4 years.
Yeah, but then you guys are missing some people too, though. Like
you got.
I love Caitlin.
I think so because I think she's going to be a triple double machine.
Okay.
I think so, based on that. But I don't think it's going to like Asia is the best player in the league, and it's not even effing close right now, right?
Sure. I think it's a little close. I'm gonna make a point. Go ahead.
Okay.
Not with Caitlin, but go ahead.
But I think Caitlin's still going to be close. Like I don't think it's just going to be as clear cut as people think. Like this shit's going to be very close still.
That's good for the game because people will be talking about it and arguing about it.
So you got Juju and all them coming up, and there's so many other. Like, I'm telling you, I'm a big Rickea Jackson fan. I think she's going to be really fucking good. I think she's going to be really good. Like. Yeah, like, and there's more, but like,
there's gonna be other people, sure.
Yeah, but
I just want to make that point because I don't think we were talking like that a year ago. We're just gonna be like, they're gonna be good.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely opportunity for Caitlin to be the best guard in the league, and I think she's like teetering to that spot, like right now, based off the way that she's played as a rookie.
Projecting,
But I've said on the podcast previously, and this is just a forward post-dominated league, like right now for the last 20 years. That does not mean that Caitlin can't change it. Like it does not mean that. And I think that that she very well will be the best guard in the league. And she's showing flashes of that now as a rookie in her exceptional play. But, Asia Wilson still being in her prime, Nafisa Collier, who I feel has closed the gap on Asia Wilson in terms of Asia Wilson is still the MVP. She may not be unanimous anymore. Like, could I see Nafisa Collier getting some votes? 100%. Stewie is still very much in the mix. These are the players that are, for the last several years and just historically how this league has gone, have just been at the top of the league. So I think it's just going to be difficult. I think Caitlin is exceptional. Let me continue to say that, because if you say anything about Caitlin, her fans will act like you think she's a terrible player. And I think that she's absolutely incredible. I think that there can be a time and a long period where she is at the top of the league in terms of guard play. And, maybe there'll be a time where she's just the best player in the league. But I just think that there's people right now that if I had to start my franchise, or if I just had to say who is, the best player in the league right now, it's Asia Wilson. And there's people that are, very, very close on her coattails. And then I think Caitlin will have her time. Her time is starting now. It started sooner than I thought. She only struggled for about 10 games, and now it's like she's played like she's a 5-year vet. So
wow,
see how it goes.
That's a good.
Yeah, I mean, and why I think Caitlin's because the way I think also coaches have figured out how to play her, and how to play with her, and I think maybe the league will still be a forward big league traditionally, but I think the way the teams are built are gonna the team she's on is gonna play different. It's gonna be a little bit different. It's gonna suit her play style, which is going to help her make her. I mean, she's very talented, but it's going to boost her numbers. Like, I think honestly in 3 years, like maybe even 2, like she's gonna damn near average triple double. Like,
100%. And if I had Caitlin, I'm building the team around her too. Like that goes without saying. Like, look at her. You know what I mean? Like,
and I think
agree with that.
I think because they'll do that is going to put her in that conversation or make her look like the best player in the league, because it's gonna look different, if that makes any sense.
And it's also just her being ball dominant, which I'm telling you, I know casual fans don't understand that, but Caitlin is a mastermind. And it's you can be very meticulous, Ronnie and Ani, when you have the ball all the time. That's not a shade thing. That's like Asia Wilson's our post player, Brianna Stewart, forward, Nafisa Collier, forward. Unless you are deliberately giving them the ball, they don't start with the ball. So, it's going to look a certain way because you're absolutely right. And she's incredible. So it's like, if you have a great player, you're going to cater to that player's play style. And that's what Indiana's figuring it out. Like, Caitlin's going to run. I better get out there on the break and run with her. So,
yeah, right. I think it's just more so her being ball dominant, but her play, like the way she plays, like as a point, like when you're especially more of like a ball dominant guard, you do have control of the pace, you have control of who gets the ball and stuff. But that doesn't mean you can be as dynamic as a scorer.
No, hell no.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
or even or even an off-ball score, like even someone that can kind of run actions for. And I think because of her, like, she's ball dominant, but she still has a unique way of how she plays, and how she scores it. I think that to me is what it's like, being ball dominant, but the way how dynamic of a scorer she is, that if you suit that play style, is going to enhance her numbers. Like, at the end of the day, Steph Curry was really good. I mean, I think they would have won a title with Mark Jackson, but they played a lot different with Steve Kerr. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, Curry's numbers were more efficient and better. Yes, he got older, but the way Kerr suited his play style and with that personnel really helped him.
To another level.
You took it to another level. And I think as long as that happens for her as a coach, and understands that, that's why I feel like she has a chance. But I still think the league itself is still going to be that. I think she's just going to be a unique situation, because the way they're going to play is going to completely have to suit her. And that's kind of what I was saying even before.
As it should.
Like, as it should, right? Like, I
if
think
it doesn't suit her, that coach should be fired.
Right. Right. Like you got to suit your best player. Like, you got to completely maximize that. And I think because of what she does, I think if you're doing that, she's going to be averaging damn near a triple double. And I think that's what's going to put her in regards to being the best player in the league. Now, if her teams aren't winning, they're not going to do that. Right. Like, at the end of the day, she's going to still have to win and, get to make deep playoff runs and stuff like that down the road. But I think the way her team will play is what's going to help her out a lot. Caitlin's very talented. We've all talked about that. But playing in the right system and for the right coach is going to play a big part for her too.
Sure. And we'll end on that. No, like I said, we could keep going. I said we were only gonna hit. We're hitting on the hour and 15 mark. We could go another 15 minutes on this topic. So, I just think at the bottom line, both those players we mentioned are playing a little bit better, or maybe exceeding expectations, and they will continue to shatter numbers and be great. So we'll talk about that on our episode. But for now, we're gonna get out of here because I know we got to run. Like I said, we can continue to talk about these topics for a long, long time, and that's a great thing because they're worth talking about it, and people should just get on board with it because they're going to be the faces of the league, and people are going to be talking about them for a long time. So for all the old players that are trying to put them down, say they need an adjustment period, all that's out the window. They're balling. So on that note, we're out of here for episode 190 for Chelsea, Hopkins, Anya, Umana. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye, guys.